we're getting to the finale, almost. And we've been actually in and out of the sessions. We missed some of the presentations because we're working on the drafting of the Beirut Declaration. And Piroska will tell us about the process, and we'll read the draft and we'll get your comments. Hopefully if we can conclude it today or very soon to get it out, because some people want to have it. I want to say that the idea of the Beirut Declaration came through the discussion we had with the colleagues in ALUM, that throughout this network of, the last 2 days we had 21 universities here presenting and debating and discussing, come up with what our friend Uni from Yale called it a declaration of intent on our role as academia and as academics in the current crisis of displacement, migration, and the issues around it. It's not only for Lebanon and the region, that's a global question that we're raising, and we need to send this message from us as academics. It answers questions that were raised today on advocacy, on research, on higher education, and all the themes of the conference, as a matter of fact. So that's kind of the background of it, and now Piroska will tell us about the process, and then we'll read it, and we'll get some of your feedback as much as possible. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for staying in good numbers, actually, this late. Nasser already has described the idea behind, and he very humbly didn't say that the idea actually was his. Thank you, Nasser. Back many months ago when we started discussing common joint projects. So here we are, and we have a 1.5, hopefully very crisp, succinct, and meaningful document in front of you. That we will briefly go through and then discuss the process, how we finalize it. The idea is to have a pledge by the participants of this conference. So we are linking, we are rooting ourselves, anchoring ourselves in the conference in Beirut, in these very unique countries with rich tradition of handling human mobility and refugee crisis through the centuries. So it couldn't be a better place really to launch that. So we are anchoring here, and we describe the setting, what is the situation, and that's what you see in, if I can, maybe, oops. It's not exactly going the way I want, but one tick. Okay, that's easy. Like this? Yeah, not rolling. Can it roll? So not the whole page, but okay. Yes, up and down, sort of. Yeah. Okay, because of that. Okay, good. Thank you. So here the first one is, and you say that is that we are here and we pledge. And the pledge essence is that we really put our academic work directly to the major issues, pressing issues of today in a better way than we had before. So that's the kind of a general pledge. Then we put it in context. You don't see that, okay, sorry. Better? Up in the higher echelons. We put it in the a little bit in the global context, and link it to the New York Declaration, as that you know, back in 2016 on refugees and migrants, as well as recent G20 and G7 efforts in this area. Then we explain the reason that for this declaration, the reason why we are doing this. And the basic idea here is that while in recent years the attention of all the key stakeholders to this migration and refugee crisis has increased, people and stakeholders have typically worked mostly in parallel. It's not an absolute statement, but it's true that we have been working, academics have been doing their own research, and policy people are catching up to the latest developments and do some firework, and the media is doing its best to capture what's flying. So we say that this has led to unnecessary delays between research evidence and practice. And we also note that this has contributed to the widening, what we perceive a widening gap between perception and evidence, which has reached dangerous levels. We are not saying, but we are alluding to this, alternative facts, fake news world, post-truth world. So in these turbulent times goes the next paragraph. We feel that we have duty to engage. I can tell you this was the most negotiated part probably of this declaration, how to capture that we are activists but we are still independent thinkers, and that gives us credibility. But we put our knowledge to the service of the society directly. We believe that we need to help and directly link to ourselves, researchers, to policymakers, multilateral institutions, many of them spoke here today and yesterday, the private sector, we just had a panel, civil society so strongly present here, and of course the media, to ensure that we cut this gap and inform public opinion. And we also refer to the fact that this should be in line with sustainable policy development, which have been captured in the Sustainable Development Goals. In the next paragraph, we explain what ALUM is about. This is our network, how many universities we have across regions and across disciplines. Then we start describing in more concrete terms what we believe in, what is our conviction, and what our kind of commitment to the outside world are. So we believe in high quality research which is globally connected but locally informed to feed into policy making at various levels. We consider, this was one of the very perceptive observations of Yassin, I think, that universities are social mediators among key stakeholders on migration, and believe that we can provide and be credible conveyors of an open platform for safe public deliberations. And here comes the meat, very succinct, that following advice from communications people, not to go into too much detail at this point, also making our internal streamlining more effective, but more importantly, we want to have some punchline and focus on what we want to do, what we commit to do. Number one is making evidence from our research, our work, more readily available and accessible, sort of translated into human language, to the media and the public at large. That's commitment number one. Number two is that we will evaluate, assess the experience in a more political language of the ongoing deals that are mushrooming. We are politically correctly say just migration agreements, but just put deals so that people know what we are talking about, between the EU and Turkey, the EU and African countries, bilateral agreement between EU countries and African, but not confined to this regional setting. Also, we were reminded that Australia has deals and others might have deals. So we will evaluate the experience, and the objective is that we don't believe, we are not saying that these are bad, but we're saying that the deals have to be sustainable and socially responsible in their outcomes. And we actually have ongoing projects in this area. So that's number two commitment. Then we commit to put much more effort and resources into disseminating research evidence and best practice. We have two main areas where we know that evidence exists and not that much used, or not to the extent possible, and we don't see the political reasons for not to. On migration protection and integration and return, which is a big subject of the day in many high-level quarters. And we allude that it will be in the framework of improved legal pathways. We also make a commitment towards ensuring that migrants and refugees have access to higher education as a fundamental human right. We will be providing a little bit more meat on this, Francesco, right? Perhaps, although it's nice and crisp, at this point maybe that's appropriate. And we finally have a commitment to monitor, stakeholders, so it will be, shareholders, stakeholders, okay. Stakeholders' commitment to global burden sharing, that was Uni's brilliant suggestion. And the main idea being that we consider ourselves as part of the accountability mechanism of what's going on in global governance in this area. You will see that we have no bullet on the private sector, given that the editing committee was in session while that session was happening, and we didn't want to second guess, but we will rely on those colleagues who were here to include an assessment. So the whole thing, which is being printed as we speak, so you will have a hard copy, is here. It's in a draft form. I should say that we've been working on the go really on this since we arrived here. We did some preparatory work, and I would like to mention, in addition to Nasser and team, the contribution by Lily Banhammer, who for family reasons couldn't be here from Mannheim University, but a very strong supporter and an active partner in the ALUM, and she contributed to the preparations. And then here, this morning, we had a drafting session with many of you being there. Thank you so much. And then we reduced that just to be efficient and try to make it to this moment to a few people to edit. And I would like to acknowledge Francesco, Angelo, and Pam to do that heavy lifting. And here it is. It is a draft. It is up for, if I may, because it's a big community, for substantive comments. So we look to you. We will distribute this momentarily, perhaps also electronically to the ALUM members. Definitely, but we look to you for substantive comments. So, major problems, major issues that we are missing or misinterpreting in a common declaration, something that you as ALUM member don't feel comfortable, even if you stretch yourself to be part of. So we are looking for big comments, major material comments, not little editorial things. That we will try to do with native speakers among ourselves. So here we are, Nasser. Again, your team is making the impossible possible again through the conference, and they will be distributing hard copies.
So we'll probably give a deadline. I had deadlines, but we give a deadline to receive your feedback on the draft from the ALUM members, of course. And those who are with us today will be sharing we'll have hard copies for you to comment and share them with us before we close the conference. But we'll have now the opportunity perhaps for 3 questions only before we move to the closing. If you have like 3 remarks or comments or questions, or we'll just wait for the microphone because we're recording it. Yeah, and Nate? Okay.
Thanks for running. Thomas Schellen, Executive Magazine. Sorry. First of all, of course, this is a very good and worthy initiative, goes without saying. But if you aim to attract more people, this opening line, we participants of the 4th ALUM conference, pledge to, is not enticing people beyond the participation in this group. And also in the second para where you say, today or now, 1 in 7 are refugees. This puts it into a time frame that makes it very ad hoc rather than a long-term statement of intent of what the academic association can do. So I would propose to go a little longer term in your thinking and formulations there. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. It's a very similar comment, but I thought that maybe participating, I mean, I guess, is there a goal in terms of, do we take this back to our universities and try to get the whole university on board, so to speak, rather than just those who happen to be at the conference? And yeah, how do we... It's clear what we're supposed to do based on the declaration, but how do we get those, reach people who should do it?
So to Nate, I think it's an extremely important question. In the end, this is a network of universities, independent universities and independent researchers. And I think we'd like to keep it that way and work in a very decentralized manner. So if you feel that you're part of this and you can, associate yourself with this, then, as you already actually told me, in some areas, you can think of the specific ways that your university, your colleagues, you yourself can make it happen. You very kindly, can I disclose, highlighted that Mannheim University may have certain tools available, which is for dissemination, which is not available for many other universities. And that's brilliant. So you can make your unique contribution. I think it's incumbent on each of us to figure out what is our particular strengths and act accordingly. We keep each other informed. We can actually do it jointly. In many instances it will be possible, in some perhaps not. But let's figure out, each of us, and be an activist. That's what we are doing. Be an activist. Figure out how to make this all happen.
I'll comment to Thomas and to Nate. And those documents, they're not cast on stone. I think they are actually...
I'm sorry.
I'm dead, no living document. So these are living documents, and they're not actually constitutional in any way, setting us what to do. As a matter of fact, they are an advocacy tool. We want to use them as an advocacy tool. So I think the more debate we do about them, the better. But for the practicality, we need to issue something, and we need to have it out. And we do this document as a tool for getting more input, more debate, and actually taking its elements as a tool for advocacy for our role as engaged academics in the refugee crisis. I think that's how we see it, more than we see it as like, this is what we do, what you do. Then if we do debate around it in AUB or in Lebanon, that's perfect. Maybe in the network as ALUM, and I think it might grow, it might evolve, it might develop.
I mean, maybe to just develop that, because I think it is a very fair point that, who are we, this small group, but I think what we are pledging is to work through our institutions, and many of us are active in many different contexts and to pursue these objectives. And I mean, our challenge is, of course, that we cannot commit our institutions. And if we were to try to commit our institutions, I think we would not ever get a document. And so I think combining what I just said, this is a commitment from us and from the people who were here to try to work in all the different contexts in which we are active to try to push these objectives, and then view this as a living document that can, over the course of the day, but through this interaction with the universities of ALUM, and I mean, we will try to have an open process. Also, universities that are not part of this could definitely contribute. Yeah.
So practically, we should have like the feedback in a certain timeline, and then we'll announce it, and then we'll get probably additional discussion when you put it on social media. I'll get a lot of negative or positive feedback. I tweeted once that there are 900,000 Syrians are under siege in Syria at the moment. Yeah, there are around close to 1 million Syrians are under siege. So one commented on my tweet, he said, if you're so compassionate about them, you can go and live with them. That's the type of comments you might get in some certain circles. So we're expecting a lot of feedback on all of this. So I think negative or positive, but that's the idea. The idea is to get this into the debate. Okay, Erik, you want to close?
Well, I said when we started that this was an experiment, and I think it has been very much an experiment. We came from many different countries, different parts of the world, different disciplines. We had a business panel, we had a lot of presence of NGOs and civil society, and certainly from my expectations, and I think from our expectations, it has been realized we have got a lot of ideas, a lot of impressions, insights that we didn't have before. And I guess there is sort of two sides to this experience. One is the incredible inspiration that you get from having being in a place like Beirut, like AUB, and being in the context of this group of people who have been here for these couple of days, and all the, as I said, ideas and insights. The other side is, of course, the complexity of what's happening in Lebanon, the complexity of what happened in the region, the complexity of how quickly changing this phenomenon of refugees and migration is in this region, in Europe, and it's very humbling to sense that and to sort of get an understanding of that, and that then cut through every single area. I think was particularly hit me today during the health and education discussions, that we are really we're really struggling, and maybe most of all actually in the talk last night at the reception, where when your dean described his experience of taking coming back as a scholar and a scholar on occupational medicine and trying to work in this region where this was not a high priority, and then trying to create something in the Arab world, a sense of sort of understanding and analysis, and then take this to actually influencing the local situation. I think that whole sort of short life experience that he described, I think, characterizes very much the kind of tension that we saw here. On the one hand, all these opportunities and sort of fantastic human potential, and on the other hand, all the constraints, whether they are economic, political, or social, that certainly, I think, he kind of personified, and how you can, with some drive and long-term thinking, and also engaging, as I did with the Lancet magazine, for example, and that collaboration. And if you have a chance, read the foreword to that book that I had a chance to read last night, and it's very inspiring, I think. So to sum up, I think we have certainly benefited from being here, because not only the hospitality of AUB and the Issam Fares Institute, but the very context of AUB, of Beirut, of Lebanon, of the Middle East has contributed so much to this conversation. I think, when you haven't done this, it's sort of hard to understand, or once you have done it, it's hard to understand how you can discuss this anywhere else in a way. But of course you can. But it sort of makes it so much more meaningful, and it's truly a pleasure to have been working with Dr. Nasser and his team, which has been so incredibly professional and
very good.
I'm embarrassed that I haven't learned your name, but pardon me? I don't think I've ever in my I've been in many situations like this, have seen someone who so incredibly professionally, without any has handled small incidents, big incidents, making everyone feel absolutely comfortable that things will be resolved. I think that goes for the whole staff, but you were really a wonderful exponent of that. So thank you very much.
Let me name the team. Just to give me 1 minute, and I usually don't do that because I miss some names, and they get in trouble back in the office. But I just want to acknowledge really the great team that I'm a member of this team, working together for the last few weeks. Without in any order, but I will start with Yara, with Yara over there, Rawia. Rawia was doing most of the work, and Maisa in the refugee program, and with Jan over there. Yara, Rawia, Maisa, and Jan make the refugee program in the institute. And then have the communication team. Michael, where's Michael? Michael don't like to appear. He's Michael, Muhammad, Bayan has left us, but we have May and Siba and Muhammad and the communication team. And of course, we have Sareen. Where's Sareen? Sareen and Dania and Farah were the administrative backstop of the institute. I think we worked all together very well, thanks to WhatsApp. And we managed to. Also, we had support from AUB, of course, administration, and so on. But the School of Business here gave us the space. So I want to thank Charlotte Karam, the Associate Dean, she just left. But also the communication team. We had Simon, our Director of News, and all his team, but also Hassan, the photographer from the communication team. And Edouard taking the all courtesy of AUB communication team. Thank you so much. I think I might have missed some names of interns and our students who I tend to forget sometimes the names, but it was really a collective effort. So thank you all for making it a great success. Hopefully next time, next stop, ALUM.
Can I also thank our team? so Jerry Mirich, who has been, please, and Carolina Stern, please, and Angelo, who is yeah, and Piroska, of course. Thank you very much. did this hard work on the declaration. Thank you very much.
Usually
Do we have the document? Yes.
And Ahmad,
So that you'll be the goodbye present.
I forgot to mention Ahmad. Ahmad is a graduate student. He's finishing this year. Ahmad, thank you so much for giving the time. Like we do in the Olympics, right? We have like the next host. So we'll announce with a fanfare. So I want to recommend, I would have loved to recommend Yale, but I don't think until Trump leaves the US administration, we're not going to make it to the US. So thanks for our Yale colleagues for making it. So I think we'll wait for Erik and Piroska to tell us about the next ALUM meeting next year, somewhere in Europe or in...
I think the only meeting that we are committed to, but we don't know the timing, I think, is we want to have a meeting in Syracuse like we have had every year. Well, maybe we will just learn that we have got funding for 2 conferences in Syracuse, so that's wonderful.
Cities, so we will follow up on those offers.